is the function of prolactin? Stimulates milk production. Now, guys, on the test, if I write stimulates milk production in the mammary glands of the breast, I wouldn't worry too much about this. Of course, it's the breast, okay? But the thing I want you to focus on right now is try to just get to the point, get to the facts of what you need to know. So prolactin. Lactin, think of lactose. Lactose is what? Milk. So prolactin stimulates milk production. Growth hormone stimulates release of what? Somatomedins. What does growth hormone stimulate? The liver to produce what? Somatomedins. What produces somatomedins? Liver. What produces somatomedins? Liver. What produces somatomedins? Liver. What produces somatomedins? Liver. Growth hormone stimulates what organ? Liver. Growth hormone stimulates what organ? Liver. What does liver produce? Somatomedins. What do somatomedins do? They cause a breakdown of fat, and they cause a breakdown of glycogen. So what do somatomedins do? Cause a breakdown of fat, breakdown of glycogen. So what do somatomedins what do somatomedins cause? Breakdown of fat, breakdown of glycogen. What do they cause? Breakdown of fat, breakdown of glycogen. Does that stimulate muscle? Do somatomedins also stimulate tissue growth? Yes. Do they stimulate tissue growth? Yes. Do somatomedins stimulate tissue growth? Yes. So one of the things I do is I think to myself, growth hormone is pretty much just the precursor. It's what eventually will become somatomedins. So I just kind of think somatomedins and growth hormone are almost like the same thing. Okay? It's going to stimulate muscle or tissue growth, tissue growth. Okay? If you break down fat, it gets released into the blood. It's called what? Glucose sparing effect. You break down fat and the glucose goes into the blood, it's called what? Glucose sparing effect. If you break down glycogen, it's called the what? Diabetigenic effect. Okay. Now, thyroid gland produces what hormones? T3 and T4. What does T3 and T4 produce from? Iodide. What does T3 and T4 produce from? Iodide. What does T3 and T4 produce from? Iodide. Iodide is used to produce what? T3 and T4. What is iodide used to produce? Iodide used to produce T3 and T4. What is iodide used to produce? T3 and T4. What is the function of T3 and T4? Increase metabolism. What is the function of T3 and T4? Increase metabolism. What hormone increases metabolism? T3 and T4. What hormone is going to use a lot of energy? Or stimulate the use of a lot of energy? T3 and T4. What hormone is going to stimulate the use of a lot of energy? T3 and T4. So what stimulates ATP production? T3 and T4. What is T3 and T4 made of? Iodide. What is T3 and T4 made of? Iodide. And please make sure you remember iodide, okay? Because don't be surprised if I put this on the test, iodine and iodide, okay? Because you have to know, guys, when you take your future exams, they love to put this as a comparison. And I want to make sure I prepare you for your next step, okay? Because the TEAS exams, they'll ask it, iodide or iodine. And most people will remember IO. They'll remember that it's something to do with iodine or iodide, but they'll forget which one. And most people pick iodine because it sounds proper to a lot of people. Now, does T3 and T4 need a carrier? Yes. What's the name of the carrier? Thyroid binding globulin, or TBG. Okay? So how does T3 and T4 move through the blood? Using TBG. How does T3 and T4 move through the blood? Using TBG. What does T3 and T4 use to travel through the blood? T3 and T4. Does T3 and T4 need a carrier? Yes. What's the abbreviation of that carrier? TBG. What does TBG stand for? Thyroid binding globulin. Now, guys, on the test, I'm not going to put thyroid binding globulin, thyro binding globulin, thyris binding globulin. I'm not looking to do that. That's a little ridiculous. Okay, so the important point is, you remember, T3 and T4 travel through the blood using a carrier, and the name of that carrier is TBG, or thyroid binding globulin. It also uses albumin. Okay? Albumin is produced by the liver. Okay? C cells are found, or parafollicular cells are found in the thyroid gland. Now just remember the model, guys. This is why we do that model stuff first. Thyroid gland. Okay? So where are parafollicular cells? Thyroid gland. Where are parafollicular cells? Thyroid gland. What's another word for parafollicular cells? C cells. What's another word for parafollicular cells? C cells. What's another word for C cells? Parafollicular cells. What's another word for C cells? Parafollicular cells. What are parafollicular cells produce? Calcitonin. What does parafollicular cells produce? Calcitonin. What does calcitonin cause? Decrease of calcium concentration in the blood. What does calcitonin cause? Decreased calcium concentration in the blood. Parathyroid glands produce what hormone? Parathyroid hormone. How many parathyroid glands are there typically? 4. How many parathyroid glands are there typically? 4. What's the name of the hormone produced by parathyroid glands? Parathyroid hormone. What hormone does parafollicular cells produce? Calcitonin. Parafollicular is calcitonin. Parathyroid produces parathyroid hormone. Okay? What is the function of parathyroid hormone? Increases calcium concentration in the blood. What hormone increases calcium concentration in the blood? Parathyroid hormone. What hormone decreases calcium concentration in the blood? Calcitonin. What decreases calcium concentration in the blood? Calcitonin. What increases calcium concentration in the blood? Parathyroid hormone. How many layers are there to the adrenal gland? 3. How many layers are there to the adrenal gland? 3. What is the function of the capsule? Protective. What is the function of the capsule? Protective. What's the function of the capsule? Protective. Okay, how many parts are there to the cortex? 3. How many parts of the cortex are there? 3. 1, 2, and 3. Make sure you know each layer. The glomerulosa produces what? Mineralocorticoids. What does the glomerulosa produce? Mineralocorticoids. What's an example of mineralocorticoids? Aldosterone. What's an example of mineralocorticoids? Aldosterone. Does the zona glomerulosa produce aldosterone? Yes. So just to make sure we're clear, okay, the first layer is the zona glomerulosa. Does the zona glomerulosa produce mineralocorticoids? Yes. Is aldosterone a type of mineralocorticoid? Yes. So aldosterone is a type of mineralocorticoid. Okay, remember mineral is referring to what? Sodium and potassium. Okay? Aldosterone prevents urination of sodium and causes urination of potassium. Guys, this is huge. Okay? Oh, excuse me. This is huge. Okay? TQ this. Okay? Is aldosterone a mineralocorticoid? Yes. Is aldosterone a mineralocorticoid? Yes. Does aldosterone prevent urination of sodium? Yes. Does aldosterone prevent urination of sodium? Yes. Does aldosterone cause urination of potassium? Yes. Remember, sodium and potassium do not like each other. So if sodium gets retained, that means potassium is going to be urinated out. So what hormone is responsible for preventing urination of sodium? Aldosterone. What hormone is responsible for preventing urination of sodium? Aldosterone. What hormone causes urination of potassium? Aldosterone. What causes urination of potassium? Aldosterone. What hormone is responsible for preventing urination of sodium and causing urination of potassium? Aldosterone. Is aldosterone a mineralocorticoid? Yes. What hormone is responsible for decreasing calcium concentration in the blood? Calcitonin. What hormone is responsible for decreasing calcium concentration in the blood? Calcitonin. What hormone is responsible for increasing calcium concentration in the blood? Parathyroid hormone. What hormone is responsible for increased calcium concentration in the blood? Calcitonin. What hormone prevents urination of sodium? Aldosterone. What hormone is responsible for preventing urination of sodium? Aldosterone. What gland is responsible for the production of aldosterone? Adrenal gland. What layer of the adrenal gland is responsible for producing aldosterone? Cortex. What layer of the cortex is responsible for producing aldosterone? Zona glomerulosa. And guys, listen to this over and over. It's a good way to practice. The zona fasciculata produces what class of hormones? Glucocorticoids. So anything with cortisol or corticosterone or is going to help you with that. What is the function of cortisol? Prevents inflammation. What's the function of cortisol? Prevents inflammation. What is the function of corticosterone? Prevents inflammation. What is the function of cortisone? Prevents inflammation. Does the zona fasciculata produce glucocorticoids? Yes. What produces glucocorticoids? Zona fasciculata. Is the zona fasciculata part of the adrenal gland? Yes. Is the zona fasciculata part of the adrenal gland? Yes. Is the zona glomerulosa part of the adrenal gland? Yes. Is the zona glomerulosa part of the adrenal gland? Yes. Is the zona fasciculata part of the adrenal gland? Yes. Is the zona reticularis part of the adrenal gland? Yes. Are there neurons that come from the hypothalamus that go to the adrenal gland? Yes. Does it go to the adrenal medulla or the adrenal medulla? Adrenal medulla. Where do the neurons go from the hypothalamus? To the adrenal medulla. Name the 3 layers of the adrenal cortex. Zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, zona reticularis. So what are the 3 layers of the adrenal cortex? Glomerulosa, fasciculata, reticularis. What are the 3 layers of the cortex? Glomerulosa, fasciculata, reticularis. What are the 3 layers of the cortex? Glomerulosa, fasciculata, and reticularis. Okay. Next, the zona reticularis produces what? Androgens. Just memorize that. What does zona reticularis produce? Androgens. What does the reticularis produce? Androgens. Remember R this. RA. Reticularis androgens. Reticularis androgens. Reticularis androgens. Reticularis androgens. 3 more. Reticularis androgens. Reticularis androgens. Reticularis androgens. Okay. The medulla. We talked about this just a moment ago. It was one of my questions. Neurons go from the where? Hypothalamus to the adrenal medulla. So what innervates or what stimulates the adrenal medulla? Neurons from the hypothalamus. What stimulates the adrenal medulla? Neurons from the hypothalamus. Does the adrenal medulla produce epinephrine and norepinephrine? Yes. Does the adrenal medulla produce epinephrine and norepinephrine? Yes. What produces epinephrine and norepinephrine? Adrenal medulla. What produces epinephrine and norepinephrine? Adrenal medulla. What produces epinephrine and norepinephrine? Adrenal medulla. What is the function of epinephrine and norepinephrine? Sympathetic activity. Don't worry about this. We're going to do that. Okay, and when we get to heart. Epinephrine and norepinephrine increase what? Sympathetic. What does epinephrine and norepinephrine do? Increase sympathetic. What organ is responsible for producing epinephrine and norepinephrine? Adrenal gland. Okay, if I said what gland, it would be adrenal gland. If I said what part of the adrenal gland is responsible for producing epinephrine and norepinephrine, you'd say what? Adrenal medulla. What does the pineal gland produce? Melatonin. What does the pineal gland produce? Melatonin. What does the pineal gland produce? Melatonin. Is involved in circadian rhythms? Yes. What are circadian rhythms? Sleep cycles. Okay, what are circadian rhythms? Sleep cycles. What gland produces melatonin? Pineal gland. What gland produces melatonin? Pineal gland. What gland is a mixed gland? Pancreas. What gland is a mixed gland? Pancreas. Okay, what gland is a mixed gland? Pancreas. It has both what? GI and endocrine function. Okay. Now, what is the endocrine part of the pancreas? Islets of Langerhans. So what is the endocrine part? Islets of Langerhans. What's the endocrine part? Islets of Langerhans. What's the endocrine part? Islets of Langerhans. What's the endocrine part? Islets of Langerhans. Okay. Is the pancreas a mixed gland? Yes. Is the pancreas a mixed gland? Yes. Name for me a mixed gland. Pancreas. Name for me a mixed gland. Pancreas. Name for me a mixed gland. Pancreas. Is the pancreas a mixed gland? Yes. Does it have both GI and endocrine function? Yes. What gland has both endocrine and GI function? Pancreas. What part of the pancreas is endocrine? Is it the acinar cells or islets of Langerhans? Islets of Langerhans. Which part is endocrine in the pancreas? Islets of Langerhans. What part is endocrine? Islets of Langerhans. Islets of Langerhans. Are they endocrine or endocrine? Endocrine. Yes, I said it the same way twice. I do that a lot. Are islets of Langerhans endocrine or endocrine? Endocrine. Beta cells produce what hormone? Insulin. Beta cells produce what? Insulin. Remember big A? Big A. Okay. Alpha cells produce glucagon. And beta cells produce insulin. Okay. Beta produces what? Insulin. What does beta produce? Insulin. Alpha, glucagon. So I'm going to do it. I'm just going to say beta, you say insulin. If I say alpha, you say glucagon. Beta, insulin, beta, insulin, beta, insulin, beta, insulin. Alpha, glucagon, alpha, glucagon, alpha, glucagon. Are alpha and beta both parts of the islets of Langerhans? Yes. Yes. Are alpha and beta both parts of the islets of Langerhans? Yes. What are the 2 parts of the islets of Langerhans? Alpha and beta. I'm sorry, what two cells? That's the better way to say it. What are the two cells of the islets of Langerhans? Alpha and beta. Alpha produces what? Glucagon. What does alpha produce? Glucagon. Beta, insulin. Beta, insulin. Beta, insulin. Alpha, glucagon. Alpha, glucagon. Okay? What hormone is responsible for decreasing glucose concentration in the blood? Insulin. What decreases glucose concentration in the blood? Insulin. What decreases glucose concentration in the blood? Insulin. What increases glucose concentration in the blood? Glucagon. What increases glucose concentration in the blood? Glucagon. What decreases glucose concentration in the blood? Insulin. Does insulin increase ATP production? Yes. Does insulin increase ATP production? Yes. Does insulin increase ATP production? Yes. Does it stimulate glycogen production? Yes. What are the three functions of insulin? Decrease glucose concentration in the blood, increase ATP production, and stimulate glycogen. Okay? What is the function of alpha cells? Produce what? Glucagon. Alpha cells produce what? Glucagon. What do alpha cells produce? Glucagon. Does glucagon increase or decrease glucose concentration in the blood? Increase. What does glucagon do? Increase glucose concentration in the blood. Does it stimulate glycogen production or glycogen breakdown? Breakdown. Stimulate glycogen what? Breakdown. Does it break down fats? Yes. So what are the three functions of glucagon? Increase glucose concentration in the blood, break down glycogen, break down fats. Name two hormones that are produced by the kidney. Calcitriol and erythropoietin. Name two hormones produced by the kidney. Calcitriol and erythropoietin. Name two hormones produced by the kidneys. Calcitriol and erythropoietin. Name two hormones that are produced by the kidney. Calcitriol and erythropoietin. Does calcitriol increase or decrease calcium concentration in the blood? Increase. What hormone does calcitriol increase calcium concentration in the blood? Yes. Does calcitriol increase calcium concentration in the blood? Yes. Now here's a tough question. Name two hormones that increase calcium concentration in the blood. Parathyroid hormone, we talked about that earlier. Parathyroid hormone, and calcitriol. Okay. What hormone increases red blood cell production? Erythropoietin. What hormone increases red blood cell production? Erythropoietin. Erythropoietin increases what? Red blood cell production. So what stimulates red blood cell production? Erythropoietin. What organ produces erythropoietin? Kidney. What organ produces erythropoietin? Kidney. What organ produces calcitriol? Kidney. What hormone does the kidney produce? Hormones does the kidney produce? Calcitriol and erythropoietin. Name an enzyme produced by the kidney. Renin. Don't worry about controls blood pressure, okay? What enzyme is produced by the kidney? Enzyme. So, is renin an enzyme? Yes, it's an enzyme. Whereas these two are what? Hormones. So is calcitriol and erythropoietin a hormone? Yes. Okay? Guys, people get calcitriol and calcitonin confused. Easy way to remember this. Parathyroid hormone increases calcium in blood. Calcitonin decreases calcium in blood. Okay? So calcitonin decreases, calcitriol increases. What hormone does the thymus produce? Thymosin. What hormone does the thymus produce? Thymosin. Natriuretic peptides, don't worry about it. We're going to do that in the future. Testes and ovaries, don't worry about it. We're going to do that in the future when we get to reproductive. Adipose produces what? What hormone? Leptin. What does adipose produce? Leptin. What does adipose produce? Leptin. What does leptin do? Controls appetite. What does leptin do? Controls appetite. What does leptin do? Controls appetite. What hormone controls appetite? Leptin. What hormone controls appetite? Appetite. Leptin. Leptin is produced by what? Adipose tissue. What is leptin produced by? Adipose tissue. Is adipose fat? Yes. And that concludes our review of endocrine system.